You're listening to Radio Lewes, where the music matters. And welcome to another reissue of a King Mob show. With us all stuck at home and binge watching, this one's King Mob on the telly.
Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Ooh, the red light's gone on. King Mob's on the radio. Oh dear. But I've been thinking hard. I've been digging deep. I wanted a big theme. I wanted something that would run for a number of shows that would be like an epic mini-series like Winds of War. And it's King Mob on the telly. So there you go. That's the 70s, that is. That's the Sweeney. That's go out and get me some fags, George, and put your clothes on, you're nicked. And it's bold and it's brassy and it's part of my TV thing. Now, actually, I don't have a telly anymore. I haven't had a telly for like 12 years. But, you know, I do have some telly connections. I'm of the first generation that was actually reared on telly. I mean, you know, my age, telly was new. When I was a kid, it was like a big deal. People sat around and watched it. And then, of course, years later, I did work in telly. I did music for television shows and adverts and like that. And I've done idents. And so, hey, why don't I do telly? Which brings us to Happy Days, which was a very weird show, actually. It was in the 70s, and it was set in the 1950s America. And it starred Ron Howard, who is nowadays if I might say so, a bit of a journeyman film director. He sort of gets those projects that other people really aren't that interested in. Anyway, he was wonderful in Happy Days, as was Henry Winkler. And there is a shark connection to that, because you might have heard the phrase, jump the shark. And that generally comes to mean when something's gone on too long and gone too far. Ooh, I hope I haven't jumped the shark. But you never know. And it comes from an episode of Happy Days when the Fonz, Henry Winkler, rode on the back of a shark. And that's now considered the classic. Anyway, Weezer was an interesting band. And they did this weird video where they like photoshopped themselves in with the crew from Happy Days. It'll all make sense. I'm so sorry. That was the Sex Pistols. What are the Sex Pistols doing in here? Oh, I see. They are coming up later. It's that numbers thing again. I'm really. But you know, we had some fan mail this week, and the fan mail said that he even enjoyed what he referred to as the cock-ups. So here now, after that, is Weezer.
Happy Days is filmed before a live audience.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, live from Arnold's Drive-In and Milwaukee Fried Chicken Stand, You Wanted to See It brings you one of the most exciting events it's ever been our privilege to bring.
Okay, kids, Arnold's is proud to present Kenosha, Wisconsin's own Weezer. Oh, hey, please try the fish. And a four.
What's with these homies kissing my girl? What did they got her from? What did we ever do to these guys that make them so violent? But you know I'm yours, and I know you're mine. Just like funny.
Stay tuned for more Happy Days.
So there you go. That was Ron Howard. He popped in the middle there just to say something. Happy days. I don't know. Were they happy days? I'll tell you what about the 70s. There was definitely in British TV a culture of risk. I mean, they used to it was mostly live, which was fantastic. Because, even if something didn't happen, you always felt it might. And to encourage this feeling, the producers, they were always putting people on shows that were slightly inappropriate. Like they get, Oliver Reed, who was just a drunk, really. I mean, he's a good actor, Oliver Reed, but he was just one of those, guys in a bar that does stupid stunts, and he'd take his pants off on air and all that. And with Michael Aspel or one of these people, they knew it and they liked it. That culture of risk really exploded on them big time and launched one of Britain's greatest bands because Tea Time TV show hosted by Bill Grundy thought it would be fun in 1977 to have this new group, the Sex Pistols, on. Well, that was a laugh. My mate Jordan was on it, and my occasional bandmate Paul Cook was on it, and my occasional bandmate Glenn Matlock was on it. And Bill Grundy thought he'd be provocative and lost his job. And the Sex Pistols got the biggest, push that anybody could get, and they were well worth it. No feelings, there you go. People say nowadays that I look like Johnny Rotten, which is a bit of a laugh, really, because, I mean, it is 70. But if I do look like Johnny Rotten, and I only dyed my hair ginger for the film, a Sharks film that I'm doing, because I thought it would be fun, I do point out to them, I'm sorry, but I look like Johnny 40 years ago, not as Johnny does now. He's a very big lad. I'll say no more about that. But I will talk about puppets, because puppets were on the telly. I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, Jerry Anderson, and they made these puppet shows like Fireball XL5 and Four Feather Falls and it was just ludicrous. I mean, even as a kid, I used to look at it and think, they're just puppets. And these shows would have like dramatic music was great. There were no mugs. They had really good music, really dramatic stuff. And the thing would be happening, and the thing was about to explode, and everybody was worried. And they'd cut to the puppets' faces, which just had one expression, the same one they had before when everything was cheery and they were having a cup of tea. I mean, ludicrous. But anyway, like I say, fabulous music. And this is Barry Gray's Stingray theme. How about that? Exotic, mysterious. I mean, they even went into like a cha-cha-cha at the end. Why? No one knows. A wonderful piece of stuff. But I'm going to leap across time. And this series is going to go on. I mean, I've planned at least 3 more shows. For all I know, we could get to 5, 6, because there's such a wealth of music associated with or written for television. It's a big deal. Man, I'm so impressed with it. You have a little idea, you know, you go, ooh, and then you go, ooh, I've hit a wonderful strain of music I've enjoyed checking out. I'm going to leap across the decades now to the 90s and MTV. Because MTV was like, MTV, I don't know what it is now. Can't understand what anybody's saying on it. It's just a really weird show. I don't know if anybody watched it. Is there still an MTV, Ben? Apparently there still is. But once upon a time, and if you're young, you won't know this, MTV was hip. It was like the thing. I mean, they knew what they were doing. I remember doing some idents for them with a top-class, a world-class animator, and we did some fabulous stuff, and it was really prestigious to have MTV on your CV. People wanted to hire you if you'd work for MTV. They did great shows, and they came up with the Unplugged thing. And the Unplugged thing, boy, it's a good show. But the best one for me is when Nirvana did it. And Nirvana showed me and millions of other people that not only were they a great power rock group with dynamics and terrific songs and guitar playing, they could achieve another kind of intensity with acoustic instruments, even cello and stuff. So I'm going to play you one of the songs from Nirvana's Unplugged sessions, and it was, as I know this song, by Lead Belly, and later recorded as a hit by the Four Pennies. It was called Black Girl. Apparently that wasn't good for the 90s, so the title was changed to Where Did You Sleep Last Night?
Happy Days is filmed before a live...
No, it's not. I mean, that's that numbers thing again. It's number 4. Where did you sleep last night?
You wouldn't do it. Okay.
my girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, when did you sleep last night? In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver the whole night through. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver the whole night through. Her husband was a hard-working man, just about a mile from here. His head was found in a driving wheel, but his body never was found. My girl, don't lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver the whole night through. Sure, for me. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver the whole night through. You sleep last night in the pines, where the sun don't ever shine, I would shiver the whole night through. My girl, where will you go? I'm going where the cold wind blows. In the pines, the sun, the shine, I shiver. Oh, night through.
Wow, that's unbelievable. The late, great Kurt Cobain really giving it. And quite inspirational for me. I've got an unplugged concert type thing coming up at the Westgate Chapel on the 22nd. And if I can get half as good as that, I'll be a happy person. What the audience think, who knows? Right. Where we're going now is into the realm of the weird, serious weird now. We're going to the world of Sapphire and Steel. And I have mentioned before, I think, about Sapphire and Steel. It's certainly the most bizarre television show ever made and has the bleakest ending of anything. I won't spoil it for you in case you ever see the thing in a box set. I just love Sapphire and Steel. And I mean, it's got Joanna Lumley in it, so...
All the irregularities will be handled by the forces controlling each dimension. Transuranic heavy elements may not be used where there is life. Medium atomic weights are available. Gold, lead, copper, jet, diamond, radium, sapphire, silver, and steel. Sapphire and steel have been assigned.
Yeah, but what were they? What were they assigned to? They just sort of turned up and then stopped time, and then people were frozen, and then they moved about and they talked telepathically. You know, I just love things I can't understand, and I certainly can't understand Sapphire and Steel. Not only did it have John Lumley, it had the very handsome, for the ladies, or the men, not bothered, David McCallum, who was also, again, Telly bound. He was one of those actors. He came up in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Back in the 60s. And I should mention, when I played the Weezer track earlier with Buddy Holly, I remember seeing Buddy Holly on Sunday night at the London Palladium, which I think was his only British TV live performance. And Buddy Holly was top notch. But let's go to the world of Kon-Tiki. What's Kon-Tiki, you ask? Well, maybe you don't, but if you do, that was also a TV show. It was a Danish guy. Actually, sorry, he was Norwegian. He was called Thor Heyerdahl, and he was a marine biologist, a scientist, and he had figured out that how the Polynesians travelled across what's known as the Polynesian chain. Bali, Easter Island, bit of Sapphire and Steel about Easter Island, Hawaii, New Zealand. The Polynesians moved from Southeast Asia right across. How? I mean, there was no navigational instruments that could do it. They had to be able to read the tidal patterns and follow the stars with a lot of hope and not actually knowing where the next landmass was. Still, they did it and colonized, and you can see, everybody can see it. So Thor, he figured out how they'd done it, and he built a raft out of the same elements that were available to them all those years ago, and using the same tools to do it. No modern technology to help him at all. This was all filmed, and he set off in it. Of course, he didn't make it. He didn't get there in the end, but it doesn't matter. It was made for a very entertaining television show, and the Shadows did the thing. There you go. That's Hank Marvin giving it large with a whammy bar for a show about Polynesian things. See, what a place television is, like this mysterious What did Terry Wogan used to call it? Haunted fish tank. You know what? I mean, that's quite funny. I shouldn't really be laughing at Terry Wogan's jokes because he's not with us anymore. But I guess his jokes still are. Hey. Anyway, 66 supergroup. Buffalo Springfield. Stephen Stills, Neil Young, the other guy called Furry that was later in the Poco and thing. Anyway, they were fantastic. Basically because they had like Neil Young and Stephen Stills in the same band. They appear on the Mike Douglas TV show, which is their first ever TV experience and their first TV broadcast. What are they like? Stephen Stills looks like he's snored half of Antarctica. He's booted and suited. He looks like he's got a Stetson hat on, and he looks like one of those Texas high rollers that just turns up in Vegas to blow all his money on hookers and what have you. Whereas Neil Young, and by the way, Stephen Stills, he's just on the show, on the clip, you can watch it on YouTube, he's just getting about like you can't believe. And Neil Young, with that beautiful Cro-Magnon face of his, he's just stood there and he's wearing like Native American Indian poncho. And I think, and the bass player sat down with his back to camera. So they've come to mess. They've come to mess with the television experience, and they do it excellently. I think the backing track was pre-recorded, but the vocals are live, and here's Mr. Soul.
Trace of my face could seem so pleasing. I'll cop out to the change, but a stranger is putting the tease on. I was down on the ground when the messenger brought me a letter. I was raised by the praise of a fan who said I upset her. Girl in the world could have easily known me better. She said, you're strange, but don't change, and I let her.
Her. Oh, sorry. I was singing along with the track. I actually perform that song sometimes live. It's kind of a bricolage. Ha! What a bricolage. It means it's made of many parts that don't... You've got that on-beat snare groove, which is pure Otis Redding from the time. Riff is kind of Satisfaction by the Stones with little changes. And the middle 8 section, which is instrumental, is very much like 8 Miles High by the Byrds. Doesn't matter, because we're all thieves, we're all magpies, it's what we do. Point is, do we do it well? And Buffalo Springfield, top notch. Stephen Stills almost was in the Monkees. And my regular listener, I think that's Mike Havelock. Actually, I got we're very delighted. We've got fan mail. I mean, we're all swelled with pride. This is from Mike Havelock, and it says, just a note to say how much I enjoy listening to... This is real, by the way. I'm not lying for a change. Just a note to say how much I enjoy listening to the King Mob Show. Always entertaining, even the cock-ups. I even enjoy Steve's alter ego, Lord Beezer. What do you mean alter ego? It's not me. Anyway, keep broadcasting KM, please. Thanks, Mike. That's great. Cheers us up. Cheers us up. And as I've said recently, our mission statement here, our raison d'etre is be upbeat, bright, and cheery, and then just play some strange music that makes you doubt your own existence. It's too long for a tagline, but it's truthful. Stephen Stills auditioned for the Monkees and didn't get the gig. Bad luck, good luck, as I've said before. Sometimes that bad luck thing turns into a good luck thing, and he turned into Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills and Nash. But then he wasn't in the Monkees, and one of my favourite bands. I have played on my Monkees special show. I did play the Spanish version of the theme from the Monkees, but I've never played, until now, the actual Monkees theme.
Here we come, walking down the street. We get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We go wherever we want to, do what we like to do. We don't have time to get restless, there's always something new. Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly, come and watch us sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say. Oh. Anytime or anywhere, just look over your shoulder, guess who'll be standing there? Hey, we're the Monkees, and people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. People say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down. We're just trying to be friendly, come and watch us sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say.
Well, that's the Monkees. And then there's Jack Good. And who's Jack Good, you might ask? Well, Jack Good was so hip, it hurts. He was an American TV producer that realized immediately the power of rock and roll. He started a show called Shindig. Then I think he had like some kind of weird drink problem and fell out with them. And like a lot of people who fell out with Hollywood, scriptwriters also in the 50s and the 60s, they ended up working in British TV. Even the old Robin Hood TV show was scripted by an American that was blacklisted from the McCarthy era. So we had this weird... And Jack Good put a show together for the BBC. And it featured, it featured people like Marty Wilde in their early days and Cliff Richard. And Jack Good was like a genius. He was certainly a genius in black and white. He had chiaroscuro. I don't really know what that means, but... sounds great. And it just, to me, it meant pools of light that people could step in and out of, and singers that could smoke. And speaking of smoking singers, he did this TV show where he put together the old rockers, Jerry Lee Lewis, Reissued, and he filmed it in Manchester. And here's Jerry Lee Lewis just going nuts.
That's when you got something. Yeah. That's when you got something. That's when you have got something. Ooh. I want you to shake it, baby. I want you to shake it one time. I want you to shake it one time for yourself. Yeah. And then, honey, I want you to shake it, but don't break it. Ooh, you can shake it one time for Jerry Lee Lewis. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo, yeah, honey. Yeah. Honey, I ain't thinking. I got me a whole lot of shaking going on. Now let's go one time shaking. You better shake, take it, shake. Come on, come on. Child, yeah. Oh, shake, baby. Shake, baby, shake it. Come on over. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this piano playing is just absolute cracked. I can't, I mean, you probably know the story about Jerry Lee turning up outside Elvis's house in a fit of jealousy with a shotgun, because he's the king of rock and roll and Elvis isn't. And there is, of course, the child bride thing, which caused all the trouble. When Jerry Lee first came to tour, he brought his fiancée with him, and she was his cousin, and she was 14. And it was, to him it was no problem, but the British press got very upset about it. Personally, I just love Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, I don't even like country music, but if Jerry Lee Lewis is singing, I have a country album by Jerry Lee. I play it a lot. And I always remember years ago I used to did quite a lot of support things for Mott the Hoople. And Ian Hunter, right in the middle of Mott the Hoople's big old rock show, he'd often just play one of those Jerry Lee Lewis country kind of things. That's how I got into that country side of Jerry Lee Lewis. Worth checking out. And anyway, King Mob on the Telly is what this show's called. And actually, very briefly, King Mob was on the telly in a sort of roundabout way. We didn't get a lot of help with the King Mob beat group. People didn't really understand when we did it in 2011. They didn't understand the notion of getting a load of heritage guys like Chris Spedding, myself, Martin Chambers of the Pretenders, and Glenn Matlock making brand new music. People just didn't get it. It's like, what are you doing? You should have. We didn't play Motorbiking or any Sex Pistols stuff or Pretenders stuff. We just did like brand new music. We did get one tiny break, which is the BBC Saturday morning football show, I think it was April 2011, but the entire month, they used this King Mob track as the music for Goals of the Week, like a 2-minute section. So I think I got about 480 quid from that.
Cause I was there, yes I was there, dancing the bells, walking on the shells, I was everywhere, and it was so easy, maybe it was sound. She wore the bright and shining shoes of the new school. I wish she landed in love, I wish she happiness so fair. I hope it feels on every trace of the road. Just take me in your arms, baby, rock me for a little while. Cause I was there, yes I was there, walking the bronze, waving my wand, I was everywhere. And it was so you, baby, it was so. Shades of evening fall down to you, and everything that crawls and flips and glides so high, lay out low and let that song run through you. Just take me in your arms, baby, rock me with a love divine. Cause I was there, you know I was there, walking through time, just changing my mind. I was everywhere, and it was so you, baby, it was so.
think I'm speaking French at the end there. And I don't know why. Can't remember what that was all about. Very surprising. Sometimes you surprise yourself. I guess you do. You know, you get in the bath, you have a look, you go, oh, bloody hell. But that's another thing. We're not here to talk about the bath. We're here to talk about the television of it. We're here to talk about Telly. And in 1967, the Beatles were completely nuts. They were on top of everything. They were like toppermost. They were album covers were fantastic. John Lennon had written a book that was a huge success. You could buy Beatles duvets. I mean, everything was Beatles. So they went, well, let's make our own film for television. And we'll call it the Magic Mystery Tour. And we'll put people in a bus. And there'll be a man shoveling spaghetti. It'll be marvellous. Well, it just wasn't. It was absolute pants show. I remember watching it at the time with my mates. And we were like 16 or so. We just thought they were jerks. Serious. But as usual, they did come up with some corking music, and this is the only Beatles ever instrumental, as far as I know. And it's called Fly In. And then when I wrote it down on my piece of paper, because I work off a piece of paper, I don't do things on computer, it just says Flying Beatles, which is a bit spooky, isn't it? Yeah, far out, man. That's like a Buckety and the MG's groove with a load of backward weird tape effects put on by Martin George. And that's the well-known band John Lemon, Paul McAlaley, George Hartington and Ringo Starr, with the posh bloke Martin George producing. And a mellotron, that odd instrument that you hear on there, and the same one you hear on Strawberry Fields Forever, is a mellotron, which is kind of like a primitive sampler where they recorded on these tiny bits of tape, sounds of instruments, each note carefully recorded, and then you would play it like flutes on there, but they don't really sound like flutes, and they wobble, and it was a beast of a thing. I did actually play one once. It was a beast of a thing to work, but marvellous sounds, and so that's the Flying Beatles. Anyway, 1968, see how we leap around. Actually, we've only jumped a year. 1968, because of the Beatles, Elvis Presley's dead in the water. He's finished. I mean, he was rock and roll guy from the 50s. Then he was like a ballad singer from the 60s, and then early 60s, and then got trapped in that film thing. Colonel Tom Parker is greedy manager. I can say that now because Tom isn't with us. unbelievably greedy, Tom Parker. Did a huge deal for him to be in films because Elvis wanted to be a film star, and he thought it was a good idea. And the first couple of films, like King Creole and Love Me Tender, are terrific, and Elvis is terrific. After that, they just start shoveling him out into sort of locations like Hawaii and so forth, and the Appalachian Mountain, anywhere that Elvis could go. And then he got bored with it. He lost his audience while he was doing that. The Beatles arrive and all the new British groups and the whole thing, and even the American groups respond. He's finished, Elvis, 68. He's what to do? Anyway, greedy old Tom Parker goes to American TV network and says, Elvis will do you a television show for $1 million. And they go, yeah. So Tom brings up Elvis and says, yeah, it's $1 million, got you for the TV show, and I'll leave you to it then. Elvis was a genius, and he put together the comeback TV show, which showcased him in 3 different ways. He dealt with the rock and roll thing by coolly playing with his old band members like Scotty Moore, did a live session. He dealt with the fact that he was a classic ballad singer by doing that. And then he unleashed a brand new Elvis, which was the 3rd model of Elvis in the black leather suit, and he looked fantastic, and he had these songs by Tony Joe White and really class songwriters, and it just set him right off again, and here he is in the ghetto. No, he isn't. I know what that is. That's television. But then I'm doing television, so it's fine. And that's television. Hey, what's up? I've got television erupting on every channel and format somewhere in here. Elvis, where are you?
As the snow flies on a cold and gray Chicago morning, a poor little baby child is born in the ghetto. And his mama cries, 'cause if there's one thing she don't need is another hungry mouth to feed in the ghetto. People, don't you understand? Your child needs a helping. He'll grow to be an angry young man someday. Take a look at you and me. Are we too blind to see? Do we simply turn our heads and look the other way? Well, the world turns, and a hungry little boy with a runny nose plays in the street as the cold wind blows in the ghetto. And his hunger burns, so he starts to roam the streets at night, and he learns how to steal and he learns how to fight in the ghetto. And then one night in desperation, the young man breaks away. He buys a gun, steals a car, tries to run, but he don't get far, and his mama cries. The crowd gathers round, an angry young man face down in the street with a gun in his hand in the ghetto. And as her young man dies, on a cold and gray Chicago morning, another little baby child is born in the ghetto. And his mama cried.
So there was Elvis back on top. We're nearly at the end of the show. Like I say, this one's going to run. I got some corkers lined up for you. If you've never heard the Led Zeppelin jam with Neil Young, that's coming up next week, and that's just one of the best pieces of music, certainly live music on telly, of all time. So I got thrills for you, and I've got spills, and I was talking to Mark Chadwick. Mark Chadwick from the Levelers lives in Lewes, and we were talking recently about being on the road and all this kind of thing, and he said, well, because I said I don't watch telly. I haven't watched telly for 12 years, really. I only see it if I go to somebody's house nowadays. He said, what do you do, I thought about it. Well, back in the 19th century, there wasn't any telly, and people lived, and they would write long love letters. They would take ages to cook, and they would dance naked under the moon. So that's what I like to do. And here's television themselves. Not television, the item, Gogglebox. Television, the actual New York band, 1880 or so. See you next time.
Oh, those are my heart, can't you see? I don't belong to misery, though she speak fine with subtle art. Such misery clothes the rose of my heart. Now what I see in the long twilight, a star falls down on the hill so wide, on the hill so wide. A face that glows in a golden hue. No one in this world knows what they do. I take my oath and I make my vow, for the tender things are upon me now. In the fragrant sweet of the evening air, I could leave this world quite without a care. I see in the long twilight, a star falls down on the hill so wide.
Radio Lewes. Local community webcasting.